Welcome to the world of mystery. Welcome to True Crime Stories, where we delve into the most chilling and puzzling criminal cases that have haunted the world for decades. Today, we will shine a light on one of the most complex and mysterious cases in modern criminal history, the Zodiac Killer. This killer was no ordinary criminal. He was a complicated figure surrounded by psychological enigmas, and his crimes were marked by a unique pattern of mind games. Join us as we explore the intricate details and thrilling events that turned this case into a riddle that still baffles the world. In December 1968, on a cold winter's night, a small town in California was drowning in its usual quiet. On this night, two young people, Betty Lou Jensen, 16, and David Faraday, 17, decided to spend a peaceful evening away from the city's hustle. The perfect place for this was Herman Road, a quiet spot known among locals for its seclusion, making it a popular place for young couples. The sky was studded with stars, and the cold air provided a sense of comfort, making the moment feel perfect. But in the surrounding darkness, there were eyes watching. A strange person was waiting for the right moment to execute his meticulously planned scheme. The next morning, the town was met with shock. A passerby noticed a car parked on the side of the road and, driven by curiosity, decided to approach it. What he found was horrifying. David Faraday's body was lying next to the car, while Betty Lou Jensen was found a few meters away, as though she had tried to flee before death caught up with her. The scene was both shocking and full of mystery. The car itself was untouched, and there were no clear signs of a robbery. It was obvious that money was not the motive. What was even more puzzling was that the crime scene was completely devoid of any physical evidence. No fingerprints, no footprints, and no signs of struggle. This mystery left the police baffled. Was this a random crime? Or were the two young people targeted? With the absence of evidence, finding answers to this riddle became a daunting task. The residents, who had lived in peace and calm, found themselves facing a new reality. The streets that once buzzed with life began to empty at night, and mothers grew fearful of allowing their children to go out after dark. This crime marked the beginning of a series of mysterious events that would remain etched in their memories forever. 6 months after the first crime, on July 4, 1969, the town was preparing to celebrate Independence Day. Fireworks lit up the sky, and music and laughter filled the air. But while the townspeople enjoyed the festive atmosphere, a dark corner, far from the celebration, concealed a completely different story. Darlene Ferrin, a cheerful 22-year-old, decided to spend the evening with her 19-year-old boyfriend, Michael Mageau. They chose a quiet spot known as Blue Rock Springs, a place popular among couples seeking privacy. They sat in their car, watching the fireworks from a distance, completely unaware of the danger approaching. Suddenly, an unknown car stopped behind them. The bright headlights of the car momentarily disoriented them. A man stepped out of the vehicle, holding a strong flashlight, which he directed straight at them. At first, the two thought it was a police officer checking on their presence in this secluded area, but soon the man's strange behavior began to raise concerns. Before they could comprehend what was happening, the man pulled out a gun and began firing at the car. Michael was seriously injured but managed to survive. Darlene, however, suffered fatal injuries and died before help could arrive. Investigators who arrived at the crime scene noticed many similarities with the first crime: a secluded location, no clear evidence, and the perpetrator disappearing without a trace. Michael described the killer as a white male, stocky, wearing glasses. He moved calmly and confidently, as if he knew exactly what he was doing. As news of the second crime spread, fear began to deepen in the hearts of the residents. People began to wonder, could the same killer be responsible for both crimes? And if so, what would his next move be? A few weeks after the second crime, new developments added more mystery to the case. 3 local newspapers received letters written in irregular handwriting, but they contained precise details about the crimes. The author of the letters, signing them as Zodiac, seemed to be manipulating everyone. The letters were not just confessions, they contained cryptic codes and symbols. The killer demanded that these symbols be published on the front page of each newspaper, threatening to commit more crimes if his demands were not met. These letters acted as a challenge to both the police and the public. How could someone commit such horrific crimes and then use them as a means of manipulation? The police worked day and night to crack the code in the letters, but the surprise came from an unexpected source. A regular couple, Donald and Helen Hardin, managed to decipher the first cipher. The message revealed by the code was chilling: "I enjoy killing people. It gives me an indescribable thrill." This statement not only reflected the killer's mindset but also indicated a kind of psychological manipulation he sought to impose on everyone. The message was filled with arrogance, as though the killer was saying, "I control the game, and you won't stop me." Psychologists brought in to analyze the letters suggested that the killer might have had an obsession with control and recognition. He saw the murders as a means of enhancing his sense of power and proving that he was above everyone else. For the police, the letters were not just clues, they were part of a larger psychological game. As news of the letters spread, the public experienced a mix of fear and curiosity. The letters contained precise details that had not been made public, which convinced the police that the author was the real killer. However, there was a growing sense that the killer was playing with everyone's minds. With each new letter, the killer left a psychological imprint, not just on the victims, but on anyone following the case. Everyone wondered, what would come next? The letters the killer sent were not merely a way to confirm his crimes, they were like windows into his disturbed mind. Every word, every symbol in those letters was designed to send a clear message: "I am here, and I control the game." For the police, the letters were not just criminal evidence, they were a psychological challenge that needed to be interpreted and analyzed. The psychologists who were called in to analyze the letters reached intriguing conclusions. The killer had an obsession with control and dominance, and saw his crimes as a way to assert his superiority over others. He used the ciphers as tools to manipulate not only the police but the public as well. The letters were filled with hidden challenges, as if saying, "Try to catch me if you can." But the biggest challenge lay in deciphering those codes. The police, despite their experience, found themselves facing a new type of puzzle. These symbols required a team of encryption experts, yet the killer was always one step ahead. This made the case even more complicated, as each new letter added another layer of mystery. For the community, the letters only deepened their sense of helplessness. The residents became more anxious, and rumors began to spread about the killer's identity. Some believed he was a brilliant mastermind in disguise, while others thought he might be someone leading an entirely normal life, making him even harder to predict. It became clear that the killer was trying to take control of the entire investigation. Each new letter was an attempt to keep his name in the spotlight. The police worked tirelessly, but with every move, it appeared that the killer was one step ahead. The letters were not merely communication tools, they were psychological instruments meant to keep everyone in a constant state of fear and anticipation. Over time, investigators realized that catching the killer would not only depend on traditional evidence but also on a deeper understanding of his psychological motivations and thought processes. As the investigations continued and more letters appeared, it became evident that the killer was no ordinary serial murderer, but someone who relished manipulating everyone. Each letter he sent was not only a challenge but also an attempt to reinforce his feeling of superiority. The letters showed that he was planning meticulously, choosing his victims, times, and locations in a way that made it extremely difficult for the police to catch him. The investigators began to realize that the letters and ciphers were not just part of the crimes, they were tools of psychological control. The killer wanted to establish himself as the central player in this intricate game. One of the psychological experts called in to analyze him described him as someone obsessed with control, seeking attention by any means possible. But the letters were not only a tool for manipulation, they were also a means of communicating with the public, making them doubly dangerous. The community became more anxious, and rumors spread about the killer's identity. Some said he might be involved in the police or the military because of his precision, while others thought he could be someone leading a completely normal life. As time passed, the letters grew more complex. The killer knew that the police and the public were trying to crack his codes, so he escalated matters. His later messages contained direct threats, indicating that he would continue to kill unless his ciphers were published, placing the newspapers under immense pressure. The decision to publish the ciphers was controversial, but it gave the police an additional chance to learn more about the killer's motives. As time passed, with the killer's letters continuing to pour in, it became clear that the case was not just a series of crimes, but a complex game of psychological manipulation. The killer was not content with committing the murders, he was using the letters as a tool to instill terror and control the course of the investigation. Each letter was like a new declaration, bearing the mark of challenge. The police worked tirelessly to decipher the letters and understand the killer's motivations, but every lead only led to more confusion. Investigators noted that the killer was brilliant in planning and had an intimate knowledge of how to avoid leaving evidence. This added to the frustration of the investigation team, as it seemed that every new step led to a dead end. The Zodiac Killer case is not just a series of murders, but an ongoing challenge to the abilities of both the police and the public. How do you deal with such a complex personality? And what lessons can be learned from this case? Share your thoughts with us. This was just the beginning of the Zodiac Killer story, a killer who challenged both the police and the public with his cryptic letters and terrifying actions. As we continue in the first part of this story, analyzing the beginning of the events and their complexities, we will dive deeper into the upcoming chapters with more thrilling details and investigations into the crimes and letters that sent shockwaves through everyone. What do you think of this beginning? Do you believe there's a chance to uncover the killer's secrets one day? We would love to hear your analyses and opinions in the comments. And don't forget to support us by subscribing to the channel and activating the notification bell so you don't miss any updates. Stay tuned for the second part of True Crime Stories with more exciting details. Thank you for following.